how it is better than the traditional databases, and then after understanding SAP HANA, we'll try to understand what SAP S/4HANA is and how it is different than the SAP HANA. And what is the roadmap of SAP S/4HANA, how it all started, what are the things which are already in place today, what are the things which are expected to be simplified in the next versions of SAP S/4HANA, and then SAP Fiori. So we'll talk about what are the three, as I told you, there are basically three key pillars of SAP S/4HANA. First one is SAP HANA and second is SAP Fiori. So we'll also have some overview on SAP Fiori. So these are some of the points or some of the challenges that the current companies have who are using traditional databases. So why exactly we are talking about this? Why exactly the traditional database? We are discussing what are the challenges, because SAP HANA was developed to overcome these challenges. And how exactly SAP started this project? It was like normally as the part of the month end or the year end activities, the SAP provides the feedback to all their customers. They ask for the feedback from all their customers, and their customers comes up with the ideas where they can improvise their product. And when SAP conducted this feedback, they got the point that one of the challenge, one of the problems that the customers are facing is slowness into the reports and the transaction processing. And that is the reason SAP thought of improvising the way in which the transactions and the reports, how can they be performed faster. And then they realized that the existing databases that they are using, because of the challenges which are available in these databases, they are not able to provide the speedier transactions and reportings. And that is the reason this was a time when SAP came up with the thought that why shouldn't we create our own database which solves all these problems which are being faced by the customers. And that is exactly they started the development of their own database, which is SAP HANA. So what were the challenges because of which SAP started developing their own database? The challenges were the databases like Oracle, SQL Server, and all other databases that we are using till now in the current EHP version, whatever you are using, EHP 5, 6, or maybe ECC 4.7, whatever version of SAP you are using today, they are not using SAP HANA database, they are using some traditional databases. So these databases were designed to perform well on computers with limited RAM. What does this mean? This means these databases were developed somewhere around 15-20 years back or more than that. During that time, the availability of RAM was a challenge. The RAM was not available in the way as it is available today. Right? Today, even the small mobiles that you purchase, you get a big good amount of RAM which is installed in that particular mobile device. But earlier it was not like that. Earlier the RAM was very costly and it was not available everywhere. And that is the reason when these databases were developed, because of non-availability of RAM or the, I'll not say non-availability, but the limited availability of RAM, the databases were designed in such a way that they will store the data in the hard disk. So as you know, there are basically two types of storage devices. One is your RAM and other is your storage devices. So, other is your hard disk. So if not RAM, definitely the data will be stored in the hard disk, and that is exactly what was done in the traditional databases. And you must be also knowing that the data which is available on RAM performs faster processing compared to what is available on your hard disk. So this was one of the challenge because of which the transactions and reports were running slower. Second problem was complex data model. What is complex data model now? So if I talk about ECC, if I talk about the products that we are using till now, when you perform any transaction, there are a lot of different tables which are affected in the background, in the database. Even if you go and perform a simple transaction of MIGO, that is post good receipt, For that also, there are a lot of transactions, there are a lot of tables which are getting updated in the background. Normally, as a functional consultant, we know some of the tables, some of the basic tables that gets triggered like MSEG, MKPF, but these are not the only tables. There are around 20-30 tables which gets updated each time when you perform this transaction. So whenever you do transaction, if in the background, if there are 20 tables which are getting updated, obviously it will take more time to update that 20 tables. It is not only the problem of updation, even if you want to see the reports now. For reports also, out of this 20 tables, some information will be available in one table, another information will be, another columns will be available in another table. So even if you want to create any new report, you need to be dependent on all these tables because you need to get the data from multiple tables. So this is complicating the system, and that is the reason the current databases, the SAP was architectured in such a way that the data model was very complex. Due to which redundancy of data. Redundancy is repetition. So if I'm doing the transaction, instead of storing the data in minimum number of tables, it is storing in 20 different tables, and that is the reason it is creating the redundancy. And the aggregations. I'll talk about aggregations when we'll see the scenario, when I'll show you the tables like the aggregation tables for stock at the plant level, at the storage location level. I will explain you this particular thing. So there were aggregations available in the system, because of which the data footprint was very high. Now what do you mean by data footprint is amount of data which is getting stored in the database is high, which means because you are saving same data multiple times, 10, 20 times, it is obviously going to consume most memory in your system, in your database. Not only that, the data was stored in the form of rows. Now this is one thing that I like to explain you by using the Excel sheet. In order to explain you what is row based versus column based, let me just share the Excel file. So let's say this is my Excel file, and in this let's say I have a table called as employee table, okay, and in this employee table, let's say I have different columns, like I have the column called as employee ID, again I have another column called as name, and then I have the column called as year of birth, and this is year of joining. So this is my simple table. This is the way in which the data gets stored in the form of tables, right? So these are my different columns and these are my different rows. So this is my name of the employee. Year of birth, let's say 1970, 1975, and 1980. And year of joining the company, let's say 2001, 2011, and 2016. So most of you must be knowing that when we talk about database, how the data is getting stored in the database, we already know that the data in the database gets stored in the form of tables. Everybody knows that. That table is nothing but in which the data is getting stored. And we also note that what is a table? A table is a combination of rows and columns. So when the data gets stored in the tables, it gets stored in the form of rows as well as columns. But now, then why we are saying that the traditional databases, they were storing the data in the form of rows only? Because from the user point of view, if you go to SC11 or SC16, and you will find that the data is displayed in this way, rows as well as columns. But internally, when the data is actually getting stored in the tables, it is not always like this. So there are two forms of storage of data. One is row based, another is column based. So let's understand what is row based. So this is my first row, right? So this will be stored in this form in the database. One, any separator, comma, or sorry, not comma, any separator and 2001. So this is one record. One row is stored as one record in the database. Similarly, for second record, it will be 2/B, or semicolon B 1975 semicolon 2011. And third one 3 C 1980 and 2016. This is how the data gets stored if the data is stored in the form of rows. Now what is column then? So if I store the same data in column-based data storage, instead of storing one row at a time, it will store one column at a time. So 1 semicolon 2 semicolon 3, A semicolon B semicolon C, 1970 semicolon 1975 semicolon 1980, and 2001 semicolon 2011 and semicolon 2016. So this is how the data gets stored if it is arranged in the form of columns, and this is how the data is stored if it is arranged in the form of rows. So now in traditional databases, they were storing the data in the form of rows. So this was not supported in the traditional databases. Some of the databases supports row-based, some of the databases supports column-based, some of the database supports both row as well as column-based. Then how exactly this is a challenge? Why this is a problem? The problem is because now if I want to write a statement, if I want to write a query that select employee ID of all employees, okay, employee ID of all employees from table employee where year of joining is equal to 2016. Now if I execute this statement, it should only display employee ID 3, nothing else. Why? Because this condition is matching. So in this query, I'm taking the help of only two columns, employee ID and year of joining. I'm not bothered about what is the name, what is the year of birth. But still, if the data is arranged in the form of rows, when this query will be performed, the scanning will happen like this. It will scan the complete record, then it will come to the second record, then it will go to the third record. So even if I am only bothered about two columns, still if I store the data in the form of rows, the complete scanning will be done. Even if you have 100 columns, all the 100 columns will be scanned. So obviously it will take more time. If you are only bothered about two columns and you are scanning 100 columns, definitely it will take huge amount of time. So what is the solution? The solution is store the data in the form of columns. So now if you perform the same query, if the data is stored in this form, it will not scan these two records at all. It will only go to this first column and it will go to the last column. So even if there are 100 such type of columns available in your table, if you store them in the form of columns, your query processing will become very fast, because out of that 100, 98 columns will not be considered at all, which will save you a lot of time. Okay, so from reporting point of view, this is what? This is report. When you are selecting something, this is a report. When you are inserting something, that is a transaction. So in short, for reporting purpose, it is always better to store the data in the form of columns. Okay, but what about the transaction processing? So let's say if I add another line here, 4D 1981 and again 2016, for example. So now it will be very easy for me to add this line directly in row based, because it will just create another line, another row. But if I want to store this information in column based, it will be difficult, because it will affect each and every row. So it will go to first line, second line, third line and fourth line. So what do you understand from this? That transaction processing works better with row based data storage, while reporting works better with column based data storage. So both are very important, right? It should not be only row, it should be also column. And that is the reason SAP HANA supports both. So whenever you store any data, SAP HANA has the capability to store the information in the form of rows as well as in the form of columns. and again without duplication. So it doesn't mean that if the same information is available in rows also and in columns also, it will consume double the memory. That is not the reason. That is not the case. So let's say if you are storing the data in the row based, you are uh, occupying 10 GB of data. This is just an example. It doesn't mean again 10 GB will be required here and it will be duplication of data. That is not the case. This will be only around 5 to 10% of this. So it will not be more than 10.5 or maximum 11 GB if you store the data in both the forms. And that is the reason your transaction processing will become fast and your reporting both will become fast with SAP HANA. Any question? Have you understood this scenario well, or do you have any questions in this? You now have the idea what is the difference between row-based data storage and column-based data storage, where the row-based data storage should be used and where the column-based data should be used. Okay, Kumar is good. What about others? Okay, so let me go back to PPT again. Yes, so we were here, row-based data storage. So because of row-based data storage, there was slower reporting and slower transaction processing. Why? Why there was slower transaction processing? Because of this redundancy. Because of complex data model, transaction processing was also slow, due to which the business model was reactive. Now what do you mean by this? What do you mean by reactive business model? Reactive business model means because of all these challenges, I was not getting the reports on time. I was getting the reports only when everything is performed, and then I was doing the post-mortem activities. So post-mortem means it is not the proactiveness, it is a reactiveness, right? Once everything has been done, you are getting the report and then you are taking the decisions. So you are taking the reactive decisions rather than the proactive decisions. But management nowadays, they want to focus on the proactiveness. They want to take the decisions in a very short time so that they can take the corrective actions and they get the results what are planned. And that is the reason management is looking for some software which provides the information in real time rather than doing this reporting at the month end or the year end. They want that whatever report they want to execute without being fear of it will take more time, not do now because the business is running now, let's do it at night. All these things should not happen, and that is the reason they want something which should be available in real time. So that is exactly what they are going to get if they go for SAP HANA. Now this is SAP HANA, which is designed for in-memory computing, and the data will be stored in RAM. So the first point, which is differentiation between the traditional databases and SAP HANA, is that traditional databases most of the times we're storing the data in the hard disk, while SAP HANA most of the time data is directly available in RAM. Second is simplified data model. So as I told you, complex data model, there were around 20-30 tables which are getting updated whenever you were doing any transactions. Now I'm not saying if you just replace your database from Oracle or SQL Server to SAP HANA, automatically your data model will not get simplified. The simplified data model is a capability which is being provided by SAP HANA. So using SAP HANA, you can redesign your product to simplify the data model, which is actually being done in SAP S/4HANA. So this simplified data model is only possible in SAP S/4HANA. But earlier, why we are saying this is the benefit of SAP HANA? Because this capability was not available in ECC because our traditional databases were not supporting this. But because of SAP HANA, SAP managed to simplify the data model, and which they delivered in SAP S/4HANA, which means removed redundancy. There are no repetitions of data. That number of tables have been minimized. Instead of 20, 25, 30 tables, now there will be around 5 or 6 tables. So it will remove the redundancy, which will remove the data footprint, which means less amount of data will be stored in the memory, which will occupy less resources. And as I told you, it supports both, that is row as well as column based data storage. Okay, and overall, this is just a rough figure which depends upon the client, and this times may be different by company to company. So by the rough figure, it is around 1800 times faster. So if you just replace your existing database from Oracle or SQL Server, SAP is saying that you will get 1800 times more speed in terms of transactions as well as in terms of reporting. And that is the reason they are calling this SAP HANA, that it is going to support the proactive business model. So you can see your reports on real time, you can take the decisions very fast, which will help you in performing the proactive decisions. So at the end of the day, what we understood from SAP HANA permits OLTP and OLAP. OLTP is transactions and OLAP are reports, online transaction processing and online analytical processing. So both your transactions as well as reports are working on the common platform by storing the data in high speed memory, which means directly in RAM. Not only that, organizing it in the columns. Even the data is available in the form of columns, which delivers faster query processing that aggregates data efficiently. So at the end of the day, with SAP HANA, what you are getting is speed. So SAP HANA is just providing the speed. It is not providing you any new user interface. It is not providing you any simplifications into the processes. For example, I replaced my database. I'm working on EHP7. Okay, I'm working on EHP7 on Oracle database. And now I'm frustrated with the speed of system. I contacted SAP that the reports and transactions are taking a lot of time to execute, and they proposed that please migrate to SAP HANA database. So I approached SAP, I purchased the licenses for SAP HANA, and I replaced my existing database, that is Oracle or SQL Server or any other database which was available till now. I just replaced the database to SAP HANA. What it will do to you, how it will add the value? It will add the value in terms of speed. All your transactions, whatever transactions you do, there will be definitely the improvement in the speed, but the transactions will remain same. If you are using ME21 and to create a purchase order, ME21 will remain same. If you are creating or using XK01 to create a vendor, you will be still continuing to use XK01 to create a vendor. So SAP HANA is just going to provide you the speed. But when we are talking about SAP S/4HANA, we said it is not only speed. We are going to get the new user interface. Using Fiori, you can perform the transactions in using the new screens which are compatible on your mobile devices, on your tabs. So are we going to get that also when you migrate your HANA database? The answer is no. HANA database migration, it is just for the improvement in the speed. It is not going to change your user interface. It is not going to change the processes. Then let's say again, so what should I do if I want to see the new screens, if I want to see the new user interface? I can tell you, okay, implement SAP Fiori. Again, SAP Fiori can be implemented as an independent product, which can help you in doing the transactions from your mobile devices, from your tabs. But again, the third point, if I replaced my database with HANA, my speed was improved. I replaced my existing user interface to SAP Fiori, my user interface has been improved. But what about the processes? I am still using the same transaction to create a customer, maybe from Fiori, but still I am creating a customer. I am not required to create a business partner. While in SAP S/4HANA, I am saying that SAP S/4HANA, the processes are also changed. It is not only the change in the database, it is not only the change in the user interface, there are a lot of processes which are also changed. For example, MRP, Materials Requirement Planning, it will not be done in the same way that you were going to now. The credit management functionality, whatever you were doing FD32 to create a customer, even if you replace the database with HANA, even if you replace the user interface with Fiori, that will remain same. So in order to improvise that, in order to add the third additional function, not only Fiori, not only HANA, but improvise processes also, the combination of these three, HANA, Fiori plus improvise processes, is called as SAP S/4HANA. So SAP S/4HANA is a combination of SAP HANA, SAP Fiori, and the improvised processes. These three things makes SAP S/4HANA a complete new product. Okay, that is the reason we are saying SAP S/4HANA is a completely new product. We are not saying this is an extension to the existing applications that we are using. We are not saying this is after EHP 7 what SAP S/4HANA. That is not the case. You may find that EHP 8 will also come, EHP 9 will also come. But SAP S/4HANA is completely new product. It is not an extension to EHP 7. Okay, so that is exactly what we discussed. So SAP S/4HANA is a new product and it is the next generation of business applications. So whatever new applications, whatever new functionalities will be available in SAP, they will be available in SAP S/4HANA as a part of SAP S/4HANA. And it is fully built upon in-memory platform, which means SAP HANA. So as I told you, one key point is SAP HANA as a database. Second is it provides an instant insight by using the single source of truth, real-time processes, dynamic planning and analysis. So this is something which is changed from the process point of view. So it is not only a replacement of database, it also going to replace the processes. And what is the third thing? Third thing is modern and simplified user experience optimized for all devices in the form of SAP Fiori. And what it is going to achieve, reduce the data footprint of your company by removing the aggregates, and on top of that you are getting one additional benefit when you compare it with the ECC, is that you have the choice of deployment. So you can, or your customer can decide whether they want to go on premise or on cloud. Now what is the difference? So SAP provides SAP S/4HANA in two different versions. One is the cloud version and other is the on-premise version. What is the difference? On-premise is same traditional way. Earlier, whenever you were going to the customers for implementation, the first thing that the customer need to do is they need to incur one-time cost to purchase the hardware, to purchase the licenses, to purchase the networking devices, to make sure that the setup is ready, the infrastructure is ready for SAP implementation. So if you are going on premise, the same thing will continue. So you will ask your customer to purchase the hardware, the servers, the networking devices, everything, so that you can start working on SAP implementation project. On the other hand, if you want to minimize, or if your customer wants to minimize the one-time investment, what they can do is, instead of purchasing everything, they can take everything on the leased basis or on the subscription basis. So instead of purchasing the server, third-party servers like Amazon, and there are some third-party companies who are providing these services, you can contact Amazon that we don't want to purchase the hardware, but we want to use on the subscription basis. This option is called the cloud option. So SAP S/4HANA provides you the cloud version also, through which using the third party you can deploy your system on cloud. But again, there are some restrictions on compared to the on-premise edition. On-premise edition provides you all the flexibility that you are using till now. If you go on cloud, there are some limitations. And we are going to talk about all those limitations in detail, but this is just an overview that in SAP S/4HANA you have this kind of options. So you not only have the cloud or on-premise, you have both the options, based on which customer can decide whether they are ready to incur one-time cost or they are okay to get the server on the subscription basis. Any doubt in this slide? You got the idea? You got the idea what is the difference between HANA and SAP S4HANA? You got the idea what are the 3 key pillars of SAP S4HANA? Have you got the idea what do we mean by on-premise and on cloud? Or if you have any questions, please ask. Raj has a question. He's asking, there is no hard disk anymore in HANA database? Raj, it is not like that. There is a hard disk. You can have multiple hard disks also. But by default, the architecture is like that most of the information, whenever you process an action, it will directly get stored in RAM. But still, as you know, when you compare the cost of RAM with your hard disk, RAM are costly and hard disk are cheap. So for example, in your company, let's say the data that you are using is 5 years data, last 5 years data you are having in your system. So I think only 2 years of data that you will be needing on day-to-day basis. So instead of storing all the 5 years of data into your RAM, SAP is providing another capability of data aging, which means instead of keeping all the data on RAM, keep the data which is required on day-to-day basis in memory, while the remaining data you can move it to the hard disk to save the cost. So the hard disk is still available, but most of the time the data will be updated directly in RAM. Raj, have I answered your question? Okay. So now, how actually SAP S4HANA began, which was the first product in this roadmap, and which were the previous products which were developed, and what is the future of SAP S4HANA. So in this slide, you can see it all started in year 2011. When I'm saying it started, the deliverable was available in 2011. Actual development of SAP HANA began way around, I think, in 2006, 2007. So it took them around 3 to 4 years to come up with SAP HANA as a database. But the first deliverable was available in year 2011 in the form of SAP HANA database. So SAP HANA was available in 2011. Then by using SAP HANA as a database, the first application, I think most of you must be aware of what is application and what is database. So when we talk about R3 architecture, we have database at the first place. On top of database, we have the application server, and then the third server is presentation server. So that database is like Oracle SQL Server. The application is like 4.7, 6.0, EHP 1, 2, 3, whatever you are using. And the last one is your presentation server from which you are doing the transactions. So SAP HANA as a database was available in 2011. The first application which was developed on SAP HANA as a background was not the first application was SAP BW. So SAP BW on SAP HANA was available in year 2012. So that was the first product which was developed on HANA as a database. In 2013, even your ECC, that is EHP 7, was also available with HANA database. And many of the customers who implemented SAP after, let's say, 2013, they had an option whether they want to use the traditional database or they want to go with HANA. So even I have worked on the project in year 2000, late in 2013, when SAP HANA was completely new and the client had the option whether they want to go for the traditional databases or with HANA. And I think that was the first project in India, at least, that we worked on, which was on HANA database. So in year 2013, SAP was providing the option to go with HANA database. And then in year 2014, the first product within SAP S4HANA came into the picture. So till this time, it was ECC only, right, with HANA database. But from 2014, it was not only speed, as I told you, it was not only speed, it was not only user interface, it was also in improvised processes. But improvised processes only in financial domain, only in financial functionalities. And that is the reason they named this product as SAP Simple Finance. And then after 2014, the developments are still continuing. SAP came up with the simplifications in the logistics functionalities also. So the combination of functionalities in finance and logistics all coming together was a product called as SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Management, which not only includes simple finance but also simple logistics. So when we are talking about SAP S/4HANA, it is combination of both. It is not only simple logistics, it is also simple finance. So what you are getting: simplified data model, new user experience, advanced processing, and choice of deployment. So you must be aware of this. Simplified data model means less number of tables. New user experience is SAP Fiori. Advanced processing is the improvised processes like MRP, customer, vendor, business partner, credit management. And the choice of deployment means you can go for cloud or you can go for on-premise. Key enablers, same thing that we discussed. So if I ask you what is SAP S/4HANA, so the answer should be that it is a combination of 3 different pillars: SAP HANA as a database, SAP Fiori as a user interface, and simplified and real-time processes. So it is not only the speed, it is not only the user interface, but it also includes the simplifications in the processes. And that is the reason, if you see the right hand side of the slide, it allows you 10 times smaller data footprint, which means it saves you memory. Because of SAP HANA, because the data is now, sorry, it is not because of SAP HANA only, it is because of the simplified processes. The number of tables have been removed, minimized, so around out of 20 to 30 tables, now only 5 or 6 tables will be updated after each and every transaction. That is the reason it is allowing you 10 times smaller data footprint. It is allowing you 7 times higher throughput. What is throughput? Throughput is output minus input. Now what is output and what is input? Output is what you get from the system in the form of reports, and input is what you do into the system, the transaction processing. So first of all, why customers go for ERP? The basic purpose is to get the data, is to get the reports. Because of reports only, customers go for the ERP. But reports will only come if you enter the data. So you input something and you get the output. Everybody likes to do minimum input and get the maximum output. And that is exactly what is throughput. So output minus input is your throughput. Less input you enter into the system and you get more output. So according to SAP's figures, it is saying it will allow you 7 times more throughput, which means it will allow you 7 times more output, and it will reduce the effort of input around 7 times. 1800 times faster processing, as we talked about, with SAP HANA as a database, and 4 times less process steps. So when you are doing a process, let's say you are creating the purchase order. So if you were taking, for example, 1 minute to create a purchase order, with the simplified user experience, that is in the form of SAP Fiori, it is saying it will save you 4 times, which means it will be 1 minute divided by 4, so it will be in seconds that you will be able to perform the transaction. So these are some of the benefits which are possible with SAP S/4HANA. Now in between there was one question, what about for the industry specific solutions? So as I told you, SAP started SAP S/4HANA. So the first product they simplified was SAP Simple Finance. Why? Because the finance is a functionality which is more important to the CFOs, and CFOs are the one who are going to approve whether they want to go for the latest products or not. And that is from the business point of view, but from the functionality point of view also, the first product which was considered from SAP was finance. So they simplified finance first of all. And then after finance, they considered the core business modules like MM, SD, and PP. So these are the modules which are already in place. FICO, FSCM, which are part of financials. And then from logistics point of view, MM, SD, and PP. These are some of the modules which are already simplified. Now, talking about the industry specifics, even CRM, SRM, APO, there are a lot of modules which are still available in SAP. What about that? They are currently as it is. There is no change in these modules, but slowly the plan is to make the simplifications in all modules. So even from the industry specific point of view, there are some changes expected, but that will take time because first of all they need to simplify the core business processes and then the focus will be on the industry specific solutions. Have I answered the question? I think it was from Kumar or Kishore.
Yeah, I'm Kishore here. It's from me. So that means you're trying to say that still HANA can integrate with the current existing APOs and all those systems?
Yes. Whatever simplifications are not done. For example, when we are saying, let's take an example of PS or PM, plant maintenance. So we are not talking about plant maintenance or we are not talking about project systems. So what will be the impact on that? There will be zero impact, which means even though MM is simplified, SD is simplified, PP is simplified, they have different tables, but the integration will be as it is, as it was earlier, which means in the product, in SAP S/4HANA, these modules are available as it is, while the simplifications are available in the core modules.
So you mean to say that from the user point of view, the complication will be remain same?
No. See, complications will remain same only in the products which are not simplified, only in the modules which are not simplified.
No. Say for example, on the logistics side, okay, so we are integrating the logistic with HANA Simple Logistics, and still the PS and all other systems, APOs and everything are still in ECC system. So what will happen is the data has to flow between ECC and HANA, or the database has to be.
No, it will be completely replacement. So ECC will be completely stopped.
Okay, so what you are trying to say is the database has to be compulsory. They have to migrate it to SAP HANA database. Then only they are able to execute the both the old process as well as the new simple finance or simple logistics. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Yes. Because see, when we are talking about SAP S/4HANA, the backbone is SAP HANA as a database. So it has to be HANA database. So even for the functionalities which are not simplified like PS, APO, CRM, SRM, even for that also you need to see again CRM, SRM are the separate components. APO is also a separate component.
Those are all separate. I agree that.
Yeah, but when you are talking about PM, PS, so they are on the ECC. So existing ECC will be completely replaced with SAP S/4HANA, which means SAP HANA will be the building block for that.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question?
So SAP Fiori will be different for CRM, or is it can be used?
How you are asking, like how different it will be? Okay, maybe let me answer this. See, you have the landscape which is combination of different systems. You have CRM, you have SRM, you have APO, you have ECC as of today, which is going to be converted into SAP S/4. So when we talk about SAP Fiori, it is not going to be different for each and every product. So the same Fiori screen will contain the apps from all these applications. Have I answered your question, Raj?
So the basically SAP Fiori can work with any module.
Yes.
Now, oh, okay, okay. I didn't know. But without a S4, sorry, HANA database, can we deploy the SAP Fiori?
Yes, SAP Fiori can be deployed without SAP HANA also. But again, there are some restrictions because it will not work as it is working in SAP S4. So let's say, see, SAP Fiori is a combination of apps. Apps are what? The transactions, right? So some of the transactions are designed in such a way that they will only work with HANA database. Okay, and that is the reason if let's say out of 100 apps which are working in SAP S4 HANA, you may find there are only 20-25 apps which are working on the existing database. But technically, yes, you can install SAP Fiori on other database also.
Other database or other modules, you mean CRM
Yes.
kind? Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
CRM, SRM, APO, the SAP Fiori apps are going to be standard Fiori apps. So even today also may not be many apps are available from this domain, but definitely SRM, CRM, APO, for this there are going to be different apps which are going to be available from Fiori.
Gaurav, Kishore here. How big is the migrating the database from HANA, Oracle or any other database to HANA? Is it we have to follow the traditional process like how we are migrating now, or is there is an the process what we use in SLT?
See now, yes. So you already worked on SAP HANA migration project?
No, I didn't. I'm just asking
Okay.
this.
No. You are saying that is it same as what we do till now? So are you talking about how you migrate from the existing
Normally
database?
now when you migrate the system right now we have a two process, right? One, they are completely legacy to ECC latest version, or uh, they are using the system landscape tool to just,
Replication, SLT replication, right?
yeah. So how
Yeah.
how currently this migrate? How big is this? Will it be a quicker one, or it's a long-term project? Or so? Just want to understand.
Yes, Kishore. Anyways, we are going to talk about in the next session. We are going to talk about activate methodology, in which we have different scenarios. But I can answer this question now. So it is like you have both the options available in SAP S4 HANA also, because these are two different scenarios. One is side by side. It is called SLT replication that you are talking about. It is side by side scenario, which means you will continue to run ECC also and HANA also, right? But on the second one, when you are talking about migration, you are going to completely stop your existing database and you are going to replace completely SAP HANA database. So both the options are even available in SAP S4 HANA also, but definitely we'll talk about this in activate methodology. You'll get the idea.
Sure. Thank you.
Now just some basics about SAP Fiori. So first of all, what are the objectives of SAP Fiori? So let me just throw some light on why exactly SAP thought of coming up with some new user interface, what are the challenges. So as I started the session, I told you SAP asked for the feedback, and in the feedback customer said that there is a slowness in the transaction processing, there is a slowness in the reporting. This was one of the point. The second point was customers were not happy with the existing user interface. I think you also will agree that we are using the existing user interface from years, same transactions, same things we are using from years, and the world is changing. Today, even a small vendor is having his own app which we can use to even purchase a grocery. But when we are talking about SAP, which is the biggest software in the world, it is still not developing their user interface. We are still following the same old user interface, which is not very easy to use, and there are a lot of chances of errors, at least when you are talking about the new users who are doing the transactions. So many companies, they already started their internal project to simplify the user interface. Many companies, they started with their own web browser-based solution through which they are doing the transactions. Many companies, in order to upload the data, they created their Excel sheets and to upload the data and all that stuff. And even SAP was not behind. SAP also tried some of the products like SAP Lumira, SAP Screen Personas, but they were not very much powerful. They were not able to succeed in what was expected from them. And that is the reason SAP continued their search and they came up with SAP Fiori, and which solved the purpose of the user interface. And now customers are happy with the user interface, and that is the reason SAP Fiori is going to be the future of the user interface from SAP point of view. It is not only in ECC, it is not only in SAP S/4HANA, it is not only in CRM, SRM, even if you go to SAP training and certification site or maybe SAP marketplace, you'll find the screens which are appearing there, they are also changed to SAP Fiori. So this is something which is completely new, which was never available in SAP till now, which is going to change all the user interfaces in future. So today, if I talk about the ECC, in ECC there are a lot of transactions, and it is practically not possible to come up with SAP Fiori screens for each and every transaction within the time. And that is the reason today, if I talk about SAP S/4HANA 1511, there are some apps which are already created for some of the transactions which are being used on day-to-day basis, like create purchase order, display purchase order, create sales order. These are some of the transactions that you use on day-to-day basis. So for them, SAP has already provided the Fiori screens. But there are some transactions which are not used frequently, and that is the reason SAP has still not provided the Fiori screen. Okay, and that is the reason if the customers want that transactions also to be available, otherwise they will not be able to perform the transactions at all. So SAP currently is providing both the options, which means it has completely not stopped the existing user interface. Existing user interface is also available the same way, the traditional way that you were doing ME21N and all that stuff. So you can go to the traditional GUI and use the normal screens. On top of that, you can also use SAP Fiori screens for the transactions which are already available in Fiori screens. So both the options are available, but going forward, when SAP thinks that now all the things are available on Fiori, they are going to stop the support on the traditional GUI. So as I told you, the future is SAP Fiori. Whatever user interface you talk about, it will be only on Fiori. Now Fiori is what? Fiori is a, as I told you, it is a product which is developed using the language called as HTML5, or it is called also called as UI5, user interface 5. This is something which is from the technical point of view. So in order to create the new screens, you need the expert in Fiori or HTML5, UI5 guy who will be helping you in the creation of Fiori screens. Okay, so but what we need to understand, how exactly it is going to make the life easy for the user, what are the things which are already available, what are the things which are expected in future. So at least let's have the overview on that. So the objectives of SAP Fiori, as you know, is so that the users have the best possible experience when they are interacting with the business suite. Business suite is an application. So whenever you want to interact with an application in any form, create transaction, extract report, whenever you are interacting, you should get a best possible screen. User can access business critical applications on any device. This is again one of the important points. So every time when you want to see the report, you don't need to log in into your laptops and computers. Some of the things you can directly see on your mobiles, on your tabs also. With integration in existing IT landscape. So your existing landscape should be completely available with SAP Fiori, and very important point, last one, can be expanded to incorporate specific needs of the business. Now what does this mean? It can be expanded to incorporate specific needs of the business. So as I told you, today if you have 100 transactions that you run in your ECC, and SAP has already provided 50 user screens on SAP Fiori, but there are still 50 transactions which are not provided by SAP, and for that SAP is asking you to log in into the traditional GUI and do the transactions. But your company is very strict. They are saying we don't want to continue both the systems. Either we go for only Fiori or we should go for only GUI. And let's say they are saying we are more concerned about Fiori. So let's configure or let's create this 50 apps, or may not be all 50. Let's take it 10 by 10, one by one. So they identified 10 apps which they want to create on their own. They don't want for SAP to wait till that screens can be developed from SAP. They want to start working on their own apps so that they can perform the transaction. So in order to do that, SAP also provides the Fiori development tool, which you can use in your company to come up with your new apps. It may be the standard apps, or it may be the Z transactions also that you had in your ECC system, but you don't have the Fiori screen for that. So you can create your Z transaction for Fiori also. But again, as I told you, this development tool, this all the settings, HTML5, this will be done by the consultant who is technical in nature, who has experience into HTML5 and Fiori basics. So being a functional consultant, your role will be again of what you do today. You create a functional specs, you tell them how to get the information, how to present that information in the form. All these things will be provided by you, while the developments will be done completely by the Fiori technical consultants. Why SAP is focusing on UI? To gain the productivity, increase the user adoption, decrease the user errors, and save on the training cost. I think these points are self-explanatory. So gain productivity means what? Less amount of time required to do the transaction. Increase user adoption, because normally we see that when we go for SAP implementation, the users are not very cooperative, because they are either afraid that SAP is very difficult to learn. What if we make mistakes? So they keep coming and telling you that no, we are not able to understand it properly and all those stuff. But if the screens are simpler, it will be very easy for them to adopt. It will allow you to have the decrease in the user errors, and obviously the training that you need to provide, you need to you can save on that cost, because the trainings will be easy because the screens are very simple. Characteristics, it is role based. Role based means what? According to the role. So let's say when you are a purchase manager, when you log in into SAP Fiori screen, you will be only able to see the transactions which are related to you. Then how it is different than the traditional GUI? In traditional GUI also we say everything is role based. So we have roles created, we assign the roles to the users, and accordingly we see the screens. But there is one big change here. In ECC, let's say you are a purchase manager, but when you log in into ECC, still you can see all the different transactions on the left hand side in the user access, in the SAP Easy Access screen. But when you double click, then only you realize, oh, I don't have the authorization for this transaction. But in Fiori, it is not like that. In Fiori, you can see only the apps for which you have the authorization. Okay, and that is the reason it is again repeated that it is role based. It is responsive. Responsive means it will work on every device. It will work on mobile, it will work on tab, it will work on the laptops, computers, in any device. Simple to use, and the properties are coherent. Coherent means it will remain same irrespective of which module you are talking about. So the question that I think Raj asked, what about CRM, SRM? For them, there will be the separate Fiori screen. So no, it is coherent, which means it is throughout the landscape. This is just an example of Fiori Launchpad. So when you log in into Fiori, you can see the screens like this. There is not any transaction code that you need to remember. You cannot enter the transaction code here. So based on your user, if this user is a purchase manager, he can see only the apps which are assigned to him from the purchasing point of view. So let's say create purchase order, display purchase order, this will be available like this. Once you click on it, it will open for that particular transaction. You can post the transaction, it will go to the normal GUI automatically. So the database is common. It is not like if you access the Fiori screen, it will be stored somewhere else, and if you use the traditional GUI screen, it will be stored somewhere else. That is not the case. Just the user interface is different. In the back end, the database is same. So even if you post a document from here, automatically in real time you can go into GUI and you can display that transaction, or the vice versa. Okay, so we are going to talk about all this. We are going to see some of the apps. I will show you how to delete one of the app and how can you bring some of the apps into your Launchpad, and we'll have the session on Fiori. The last thing about the deployment options. So this is one of the questions that I think Kumar or Kishore has asked. What are the different options? So the first thing is obviously the new customer. So when you are going for the implementation, you are either going for the customer who is not using SAP at all. So for him, it is a completely new implementation. And he has three options. He can go on premise, he can go on cloud, or he can go on hybrid. Hybrid means combination of both. So let's say you have ECC and you have CRM. So one option is ECC plus CRM both on premise. Second is cloud, ECC and CRM both on cloud. And third is hybrid, in which you can decide ECC, let's keep it on premise, and cloud, let's bring CRM on cloud. So that is hybrid option. The second option is if you are coming from SAP, you are already SAP customer and you want to migrate to SAP S/4HANA. So the first option is if you are, or maybe I'm talking about starting point B, if you are working on SAP but any other database. So the prerequisite is you must be on HANA database. So during the conversion, you have to migrate to the HANA database and SAP S/4HANA. And the third one is if you are already on HANA database, then even it is simpler. So you can directly migrate to SAP S/4HANA. Again, in all the three scenarios, you have all the three options available. You can go on premise, on cloud, or on hybrid. Any questions in this slide, or maybe in the slides of Fiori? Any questions from the guys who attended last session? Senthil or Yener? Nimesh, I think you were also available in the last session, right?
Yes, Gaurav.
Yeah. So we completed till deployment option, or we completed in the last session till Fiori? We completed this complete PPT, right? Yeah, any questions? Okay, we have not covered the deployment options in the last class. Okay. So are you okay with the deployment options? You got the idea? We are going to discuss in more detail. This is just an overview. So I have not covered these small things like deploy new installation, what exactly is this? But we are going to talk about all these things in detail when we will talk about the conversion process. It will be very difficult for you to understand these small things now. Once we proceed with the sessions, you will get the more idea, and it will be very easy for you to catch up these things. Yeah, any other questions? If no questions, I think we need to stop here, because the next topic that we are going to start, the next topic that we are going to start is SAP Activate methodology, which requires at least 1.5 hours to complete. And the That is also something which is completely different than what we understand till now. So it will be good if we start this next topic in the next session. And if you get time, just explore during this time what is SAP Activate. Although you are going to get everything regarding SAP Activate methodology, but still it will be good if you come prepared. It will help you in understanding in a better way. So I think we can stop here and we can meet tomorrow. Yeah. Zaheer, are you there? Okay, I think we are done. So we can.
Gaurav, we're going to be having a 2-hour session tomorrow, right?
See, it depends upon the topic.
Okay, no problem. I got your point.
Because see, I don't want to unnecessarily extend the session. See, if I can take 2-hour session today also, but it will be like half topic will be covered today and half topic will be tomorrow. So instead of that, for at least 1 or 2 sessions from now, because they are going to be 1.5 hours, it may take 1.5 hours tomorrow also. So let's concentrate on one topic at a time. Once we are done with this small basics, then when we'll move to the higher topics like configuration and all, then we can continue because we don't need to stop there. There are some questions. Just a minute. Yeah, there is only one question from Raj. Column-based takes less memory than row-based. Why? Yes, because see, if it takes same amount of memory, then it will be totally repetition, and that is the reason there is internal capability of SAP HANA which stores the column-based data in compressed form. Compressed, you know, like today, even if I have 10 GB file, but if I want to send through the mail, I can compress it with the WinZap or rar.rar file to make it compressed. That is the same thing which is used in SAP HANA to compress the data which is available in the form of columns. So that is the reason if it is stored in the form of compression, definitely the amount of memory which will be required will be less. Okay. Okay, thank you then. So we can close today and we'll meet tomorrow again at same time with SAP Activate methodology. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Gaurav.